Hey, everybody, and welcome back to For the Booze.
For the booze.
For the Booze.
For the booze.
Booze.
For the booze.
Yeah, that show.
Booze for the booze. For the booze. We're back again for another episode of For the Booze.
We are.
Wow.
I'm excited for this one.
So am I. I wasn't at first. I really wasn't until I started doing the research for it. And I was like, oh, this is a pretty good one.
Aww.
This was your pick, so.
It was my pick.
Once again, no listener stories.
Boo.
I did talk to Ben, though. I talked to him today.
You did?
Yeah, so we should be getting some stories, I believe, from him. I know he's been a little busy, so.
Yay. Hi, Ben.
Hopefully he'll be sending some in.
Thank you. I didn't know. I've been at work all day.
Yeah. yeah, you haven't even been home that long.
I know.
But we are moving on. I really enjoyed last week's. Last week's was pretty fun. It was one of my favorite places. So
yeah, that was a good one.
But this week, we're going to start another kind of small series that we're going to do that's going to focus in on haunted homes and haunted houses and mansions and manors, places that people have lived, I guess, in honor of the fact that we're going to be moving.
Yes, I'm so excited.
We're going to be up and leaving Florida at some point.
Bye.
So for the next few weeks at least, we'll be kind of focusing on estates and houses and manors and mansions and whatever we can find.
I'm so excited for this. I really am. There's just so many good ones, you know?
There are tons
so
of
many
haunted manors and estates and mansions. Oh my.
And maybe some that we've never heard of before.
Oh, I'll make sure of it.
Yes.
I'll make sure I find something. There's got to be some house out there and I don't know, the hollers of Kentucky somewhere that we don't know about that's been documented or something. I don't know. We'll find something, or we'll talk about some of the ones that people know, and we'll just try to elaborate on them a little bit. But this week, we are going to be heading to the beautiful, the ever breathtaking state of Illinois. If you live in Illinois, I'm sorry, but I mean, you know. And
you know.
Yeah, and we are going to it's actually a very, very famous place. So
yes, it is.
This isn't going to be like a new one to anybody, but we are traveling to Coles County in Ashmore, Illinois, to visit the site of
Ashmore Estates.
That's right, Ashmore Estates. Now, this place has been well documented. It has had, it's another one of them places, kind of like last week. Everybody's been here.
Yes.
And this place was made popular by,
oh boy,
Zach, our friend Zach Baggins. Now, I can't really say it was just because of him. It was starting to gain traction before he ever came. But
right.
When Ghost Adventures went there in season 5, which was years ago.
Way long ago.
You know, Nick was still there.
Like season 25 or something like that
I think it's like 25, 26, 27. You can't keep track anymore.
So they were early settlers at this place in the paranormal world.
This would have been like 2012, 2013-ish.
Yeah.
Somewhere around that area. But this place had actually been doing ghost tours way before they ever showed up.
Ooh.
But they are kind of responsible for, I guess, introducing them to a wider audience of people. Because, you know, now all of a sudden it had television appeal and people were watching it from home.
Yeah.
So, yeah, this is a well-known one. So if you've heard of it, awesome, cool. You know what we're going to talk about. And you can listen in and critique us. And if not, we'll get ready because there's a lot of stuff here. A lot more than I actually thought. I thought I was going to be very bored doing this one, but I was pretty surprised.
Nice.
And the history went back farther than I thought it would.
Ooh.
So,
yay.
I think we should get into it.
I think so too. Let's do it.
Here we go. Coles County was organized on December 25th, 1830, from Clark and Edgar counties. It was named after Edward Coles, the second governor of Illinois, from 1822 till 1826. The majority of American settlers who founded Coles County were either from the 6 New England states or were born in upstate New York to parents who had moved to the region from New England shortly after the American Revolution. They were part of a wave of farmers who headed west into the frontier of the Northwest Territory during the early 1800s. The completion of the Erie Canal led to an increase in such migrants heading west. When these settlers originally reached what is today Coles County, they found dense virgin forest and prairies. The New England settlers laid out farms, constructed roads, erected government buildings, and established post routes. They brought with them many of their, quote, Yankee values, such as staunch support for abolitionism, as well as a passion for education. They quickly established schools in their communities. They were mostly members of the Congregationalist Church, though some were Episcopalian. As a result of the Second Great Awakening, many had become Baptist or switched to Protestant denominations, such as Methodism or Presbyterianism, before moving to what is now Cole County. The prevalence of settlers with New England heritage resulted in their establishing a culture that was continuous with that of New England for the first several decades of its history. The less fortunate have always been with us, however, and they were certainly in Illinois from its earliest days. One of the first acts of the Illinois legislature after Illinois became a state was to provide for care of the most vulnerable members of society by establishing overseers of the poor, who outsourced supervision of orphans and the destitute to private citizens. In exchange for labor and a small stipend, these, quote, guardians of the poor clothed, fed, and housed individual people. The practice continued until February 1839, when an amendment to, quote, enact for the relief of the poor, unquote, authorized county governments to establish almshouses and levy a tax for their support. Nearly every county maintained an almshouse and a poor farm, where the indigent, elderly, or chronically ill lived and worked. The poor farm system lasted 100 years. After the Public Assistance Code of Illinois in 1949 typically forbade almshouses from taking in children or the, quote, feeble-minded women under the age of 45, fewer people found themselves on the county poor farm. In 1967, the Public Aid Code of Illinois deauthorized the system of county farms, forcing the new remaining almshouses in Illinois to close. By that time, most of Illinois' almshouses had been sold to private companies or torn down. The first Coles County poor farm was located in Charleston Township near the small town of Loxa from 1857 until 1869. The inadequate almshouses there housed 27 residents. In 1870, the county purchased 260 acres in Section 35 of Ashmore Township, which sat astride the Indianapolis and St. Louis Railroad. Ben R. Maxwell, a contractor from Charleston who had worked on the project as a young man, wrote in a letter to the Daily Courier in 1916 that, quote, the brick for the building was made and burned on the county farm just across the railroad on the south side. The two-story timber and brick building, constructed by H.B. Truman, was the first to sit on the property. The small 38-foot by 58-foot structure included an attached kitchen. According to the 1879 history of Coles County, the initial superintendent and overseer of the poor of the county farm was Oliver D. Hawkins, who migrated to Coles County from Kentucky in 1841. Hawkins quickly rose to become the prominent member of the Ashmore community and served as superintendent of the farm for 3 years. The resident population at the almshouse, which peaked at 41 in 1870, began to gradually decline. According to Coles County census data, the farm supported 35 residents in 1880, 23 in 1900, and 18 in 1910. Many of the residents, generally referred to as, quote, inmates, died at the farm, and the county maintained a small cemetery somewhere north of the grounds. In 1879, Joshua Ricketts, superintendent of the county farm at the time, had recorded 32 deaths out of the roughly 250 inmates who had stayed at the farm between 1870 and 1879. Another pauper cemetery, established a few years later, still exists south of Route 16 and now contains the graves of between 60 and 100 people. Ricketts maintained that alcoholism was the root cause for many of the problems that led to a stay at the farm. Quote,
I am convinced that fully 9/10 of all pauperism in this county may be traced either directly or indirectly to use of intoxicating drinks.
He wrote to the editor of the History of Coles County in 1879. Quote,
Not that there were that number who were drunkards, but the sin of others has, in many cases, visited the children to the third and fourth generations. It is but a few days since a poor, degraded creature left the house to return to his old haunts, where he can again wallow in the ditch, steeped in the fire of the still. The same man said that he felt as if he could drink fully 3 inches of whiskey. So anxious was he to get back to his old rum holes. I am thoroughly satisfied that there would be no real necessity for poorhouses if intoxicating liquors were banished from the land.
The Board of the State Commissioners of Public Charities visited the poor farm on June 9, 1880, and was satisfied with the generally favorable conditions. Quote, the inmates are well fed and in good health, unquote, they reported. Quote, of the 3 insane who are now in this almshouse, only 1 has been committed by verdict of the court. The commissioners went on to describe the residents' meals in detail. Breakfast, coffee, meat, biscuit, butter, molasses, rice, and hominy. For dinner, meat, bread, milk, beans, potatoes, and other vegetables. Supper, the same as breakfast, with addition of fruit. And lastly, they reported on the cost of the institution, which was $1,706 for the almshouse and $3,676 for the farm in 1883. 17 years later, the committeemen described much the same conditions. Quote, the heating is by stove and is sufficient, they reported. There is no regular system of ventilation, but plenty of fresh air is easily obtained. There is no plumbing. There is no fire protection. As for the condition of the mentally ill at the farm, there is no special provision for the insane. None are locked up or in restraint. After the turn of the century, conditions on the poor farm deteriorated, and the local newspaper reported on the deplorable situation. The Auxiliary Committee of the State Board of Charities condemned the almshouse for its, quote, vermin-infected walls, rough floors, small windows, and improper ventilation. It was also reported that, quote, flies swarmed everywhere and were especially noticeable on the poor food prepared for dinner. Additionally, the residents were found to be mostly elderly and unsupervised. The Auxiliary Committee felt so strongly about their decision that they remarked, quote, our pride and our humanity should make us determined to remove the disgrace of it from us. Evidently, the committee was true to its word, and in January 1915, they received bids for the construction of new, quote, fireproof building designed by Danville architect L.E.W. Stube. The construction contract for the new almshouse was first awarded to S.C. Saylor of Oakwood, Illinois, but he backed out of the project in late February 1916. The contract was then granted to J.W. Montgomery in March for $20,000, $389, and the cornerstone was ceremoniously laid on May 17, 1916. While builders set the cornerstone in place, quote,
Spectators spend considerable time in visiting the inmates of the home and looking around the big farm.
life on the new farm improved considerably. A full-time caretaker and his family took turns living in the almshouse and a white farmhouse that formerly sat on the property. Nancy Swinford, the daughter of Leroy and Laura Andrews, lived at the home for 8 years, from around 1947 to 1954, starting at the age of about 8 or 9 years old. Her father was the superintendent of the farm during that time, and her mother was known as the matron. Andrews was in charge of managing the farm, while his wife supervised chores inside the building, which included laundry detail and meal preparation for her family and the residents. Quote,
The county furnished all the food.
Swinford recalled. But the residents raised much of their food on the farm, tapping the maple trees for syrup and tending to the cattle housed in the large barn. Quote,
We had some who would help in the kitchen. They would help with the cooking. Some helped with the dishes. They had responsibilities. They milked cows. They butchered all their own meat, those that were able. Daddy gave them a job. They had to help earn their peace.
As the philosophy regarding care for the poor changed, so did the means of caring for them. Many of the buildings were sold off to farmers, while others were privatized as care facilities. Coles County retained the farmland around the property, but sold the almshouse to Ashmore Estates, Inc. in February 1959. The corporation would open the building as a private psychiatric hospital by the same name. In October 1964, after 5 years in operation, the psychiatric hospital closed down because of debt. The institution would reopen in 1965, but changed its focus from a private facility to one that accepted patients from state mental institutions. These were the times in which they were already trying to break up large asylums. By 1968, the shelter care facility housed 49 residents, including 10 who had suffered from epilepsy. Paul Swinford and Galen Martini purchased the institution in July of 1976. The two originally envisioned building a new one-floor residence to house up to 100 patients, but the State Planning Committee refused. Swinford and Martini then invested more than $200,000 to construct a modern addition to the old building and upgrade systems throughout the facility. Construction would begin in 1977, but was not finished until the 1980s. On December 12, 1981, Barbara Jean Clark became director of the care facility. Quote,
We have the opportunity to be one of the best facilities of our kind in this area,
she remarked in their 8-page in-house newsletter, the Ashmore Review. In February of 1986, Paul Swinford entered into a limited partnership with a Peoria-based company known as Convalescent Management Associates, Inc., to help manage the institution's finances. Because the Department of Public Aid and Public Health did not issue required licenses and certificates for nearly a year, Swinford filed for permission from the Illinois Health Facility Planning Board to close the facility. At the time, Ashmore Estates' financial losses exceeded $1.5 million. By the end of April, all of the residents had been transferred to area homes, and Ashmore Estates would close its doors. No one attempted to reopen the institution for 3 years. And in 1990, Paul Swinford, along with the Corrections Corporation of America, based in Tennessee, tried to adapt Ashmore Estates as a mental health facility to treat teenage boys who were in the justice system. On December 18th, the Ashmore Village Board unanimously rejected Swinford's request for a zoning permit. They stated concerns related to fire safety of the facility and public opposition to the proposed use. Then, on Halloween night in 1995, a fire destroyed an outbuilding that was across the lawn from the front entrance of the main building. This was the site of the former house of the poor farm superintendent. The outbuilding had been used to teach motor skills to the developmentally disabled prior to the facility's closure in 1987. In 1998, Arthur Colclasure from Sullivan paid $12,500 for the property with intentions to renovate the building as his own private home. These plans were soon abandoned due to repeated vandalism. 2006 would spark a new era in Ashmore Estates. Scott Kelly and his wife purchased Ashmore from Colclasure and began renovating. According to Kelly, quote,
"The building was a wreck. It took 7 weeks of 40 hours a week to clean it out. The windows were mostly broken."
To finance the project, the Kellys offered flashlight tours of the interior. Locals and self-styled paranormal investigators would quickly line up to get a look around inside of the old building. To discourage trespassers, they would erect signs and moved onto the property. The Kellys opened their commercial haunted house on October 13th, 2006. In the off-season, Scott offered overnight stays in the building under a program called a, quote, night of insanity. He featured speakers, movies, and guests such as psychic medium Carrie Stone from The Carrie Stone Show. Things went fine until January 2013. The Ashmore area would be hit by a fierce storm with wind speeds reaching 80 to 100 miles an hour. Ashmore Estates suffered considerable damage. Its roof was blown off and the support gables were destroyed. Director Dan Ensign of the Coles County Emergency Management Agency said that the building appeared to be damaged beyond repair. The Kellys' home adjacent to the property escaped largely unscathed. The Kellys would sell the building at auction in April 2013 for a price of $12,700 to Robert Burton and Ella Richards. They would go on to sell it in May 2014 for an undisclosed amount to Robin and Norma Terry, owners of the R Theater in Auburn, Illinois. The Terrys would replace the roof, install bathrooms, a shower, and a kitchenette, and made many other renovations of the buildings for safety for structural preservation. Aided by volunteers, the Terrys intend to preserve the building as a historical structure and a site for paranormal investigators to come for years. An immeasurable amount of paranormal investigation teams have been to Ashmore, and some impressive claims have been made over the years about this building. Tales of boards flying through the air, people being chased up the stairs, loud thumps, shadows near windows, and apparitions of a child. Eyewitnesses have even reported being touched. People have also seen an apparition of a doctor who was believed to have jumped from out of the window in the building, and others have reported seeing an apparition of a male wearing a top hat. While Ashmore Estates may have only been born in 1957, the history surrounding it has gone back much longer. Deplorable living conditions, abuse, and many things that we probably don't know about have all happened here. With that being said, would it really be that surprising that there may be something left behind at the estate?
That was really good.
There's a lot going on there.
Yeah. Like, I feel like it went through so many different phases, and they tried to really push each phase, and it just ended up blah. And like fizzling out and doing nothing.
But we're going to find out from your story that I would imagine that Ashmore Estates still looks relatively the same in kind of like a disheveled look. Mm-hmm. But a lot of changes have been made that are very interesting that we're going to learn about in your part.
Well, I mean, bathrooms didn't get added till how long later?
Yeah,
like
I would imagine
a really long time.
You're going to poop outside.
That's That's crazy to me. I was like, what?
We got to plant some plants with big leaves out back.
For your paper.
Yeah, gotta put it in a hole. But it's just a very cool, and the history just goes back so far that it, the land and the stuff that has been happening there has long been before Ashmore Estates ever showed up. I mean, Ashmore Estates didn't show up until the mid 1900s.
Yeah, and I think most places that have been like insane asylum or home for the mentally ill, or even previously before that, poor farms, have never really had great runs.
Well, they're full of people who are very vulnerable.
Yes,
and
very.
In certain times, a lot of people, they weren't really looked at like, I guess, how we would look at them now. They were looked down upon.
Yeah.
They were treated like a problem. We've read in stories before how they would just like stick them in rooms and like it, or to get rid of them because they didn't want to have to deal with them.
Right.
And that's just how they viewed people at that time. We've come a long way as humans.
Yes.
I mean, we still have a long way to go, but we've come a long way, especially when you read us about stuff like this. But there were bad things that happened to people there, but it seems like some good was also done there. It wasn't all bad. I'm sure more was bad than was good, but I mean, I'm sure it helped somebody.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. And I really hope it did, because, you always think like they make these places to do so, and they end up being bad. But maybe there's those few that it helped, I guess.
I mean, we talked about Madison Seminary last week, and people love that place.
Yeah.
That place was looked at like they never wanted to get rid of it because of all the good it did. So these places exist. I don't think this is one of them, though.
And I think, too, that it's easier to focus on the bad than the good. And, you say, oh, this is what these places are for. And then people like to focus on how that failed.
I think the bad makes for a more interesting story. That's why.
Of course.
Of course. If you just told a story about a place that did nothing but good stuff for 100 years, your story would be over real quick.
Blah, blah.
But if you tell a story about a bunch of bad stuff, people are interested in each individual bad story, because it's hard to conceive as modern day people what other people had to go through back then. And I'm not saying that there aren't people who go through it now, but a much larger group of people went through it back then in a way that, like, you didn't really get in trouble for this kind of stuff as you, at least now, if you're found out doing stuff like this, you go to jail and, end up on death row or something.
Yep.
But back then it wasn't like that. They were just like, well, we don't have to deal with them.
As long as you have decent heat and...
They didn't even have decent heat. Their heat came from a stove.
Abundant windows.
That made me
for
mad.
Fresh air.
That made me mad. They said it had sufficient heat. It was by a stove. This place is big.
A stove.
Ridiculous.
So crazy.
But anyways, that's the history of Ashmore Estates, and I really want to get into the ghosty stuff because there is a lot more than I thought there was.
All right.
So there's a lot of cool stuff. So I think we should do that. What do you think? Should we do that?
I think we should. And
Okay.
I think I need to tell you, that was some good history.
Well,
I
thank
enjoyed
you.
that.
I appreciate that. I was stumbling a little bit. I was struggling.
That's all right. That's the power of editing.
The power of editing. But I guess we have to take an ad break first before we do this.
Oh.
I know it sucks, but we'll be right back after these ads.
And now that we've had the ads, it's time to get back to the show. Ashmore Estates is a behemoth brick building sitting ominously in the midst of a cornfield in eastern Illinois. Dating back to 1916, this property has seen a lot of tragedy and death over its years. The building originated from a poor farm then transitioned into a private psychiatric facility. At its peak occupancy, Ashmore housed 49 patients. Due to financial crisis, Ashmore Estates closed its doors as a psychiatric facility in the mid-1980s. The building sat vacant, with failed attempts of repurposing through the 1990s. In the 2000s, the massive building was used as a haunted attraction during the Halloween season and has seen a few different owners until its latest caretakers took over in 2014. The Terrys have put so much time, love, and energy into this incredible location, always keeping the history and integrity on the highest level of importance. Ashmore Estates stands tall with its unique experience for investigators and teams of all different experience levels. It is wired from top to bottom, literally, with IR pucks hanging from the ceilings of the major hallways to help illuminate your footage during your overnight. And the color-coded DVR cords ran from each of the 3 floors, all leading back to the team room/base camp, which is set up perfectly for your overnight or daytime investigation. If you've ever slept on the floor of a haunted location in the summer or winter, you'll appreciate what Ashmore Estates has to offer for an additional cost. Heated and cooled bunkhouses with beds, TVs, and couches. Throughout all of the years, many have had personal ghost accounts at Ashmore Estates. Most of the experiences were quite frightening. Eventually, in or around the year of 1987, the government seized all of the funding activity for the home and shut it down to the public. Once the shutdown occurred, the stories of all the paranormal experiences and even rumors of other stories started to circulate. This immediately drew the attention of the public eye, particularly paranormal experts and the curious public. Ashmore Estates is listed as one of the 50 most haunted sites in the USA. Visitors here have reported seeing full-bodied apparitions, including that of Elva Skinner, a young girl who died in a fire in 1980. Kentucky Joe, who was known for wearing a top hat, and an apparition called Jumper, who was apparently a former doctor at the site before leaping to his death through one of the windows. Visitors to Ashmore Estates have regularly claimed to hear voices, some of which have been recorded. Banging noises and dark shadows in corners of the rooms are also a reoccurring theme in accounts of nights spent at Ashmore Estates. Visitors have often told of their experiences of being grabbed and pushed by unseen hands. One visitor, who bravely spent the night here alone, awoke to find himself lying on his side while being pressed to the ground. Another place of interest to many visitors is the music room, where instruments are heard being played when the room is completely empty. Orbs have also been seen in this room on many occasions. There are all sorts of ghostly activities that have been reported here, but there are 3 main ghosts who are known to be real people who died there. Lots of people have claimed to have experiences with all of them. There's also another ghost that people often claim to see, but nobody knows much background on him. The first that is frequently encountered by Ashmore visitors is thought to be that of Joe Bloxam. So many died at the poor farm over the years that Ashmore had its own private cemetery. But Joe is the inmate most visitors have come to know. According to legend, Bloxam was walking back to the poor farm on the train tracks from a day of labor when he was struck from behind by a train. Not one to go out easily, Joe reportedly limped all the way back to the poor farm before collapsing and dying from his injuries. Now his tall apparition is often spotted inside and outside the building, sometimes appearing clear enough to be identified as Joe simply by his facial features. People who go down to the basement and visit the boiler room often encounter Joe's ghost. He doesn't seem to like people down there, especially women. Some people have been hit so hard that others have actually seen their feet fly off the ground as they fall. One man was knocked unconscious by the ghost that has no memory of actually being hit. But other people were there to see it happen. They say that Joe doesn't like people messing around down there and still considers that his territory. Another of the well-known ghosts is known as Jumper. They say a doctor jumped out of a third-story window to his death. Nobody seems to know who he was, though. The odd thing is that many people who take pictures there capture his image going past the window. Another ghost has a very sad story. The before-mentioned Elva Skinner is claimed to have only been about 5 years old. Elva lived at the poorhouse with her mother in 1880. Unfortunately, one day a spark from a stove heater caught her dress on fire, and she soon succumbed to the burns she received. Now it is said that visitors to Ashmore Estates can look forward to Elva holding their hands or tugging on their shirts to get their attention. Many people say they see a small child there or hear a small voice whispering, "Mama?" Upstairs, in one particular room near the front of the building, 2 female ghosts are said to reside there. Reportedly, the spirits of 2 good-natured, mentally handicapped former patients. These 2 spirits are frequently read to visitors in hopes of inspiring them to manifest themselves. Many people have reported odd sounds, disembodied voices, and EMF spikes in the room once they begin reading to the girls. Back in Season 5, on Episode 1, Ghost Adventures would visit Ashmore Estates. Upon arriving at the building, the crew members were greeted by Scott Kelly. He would introduce them to the building, and the crew investigates the history of the abandoned psychiatric hospital and goes on to interview eyewitnesses that claim to have experienced paranormal activity on the site. They interviewed the local weatherman, Kevin Oppert, about his encounter. He goes on to tell them, during his previous visit, he was sitting down on a chair in one of the floors and blacked out. He woke up on the ground and a couple feet away from the chair he was sitting on. Another man was interviewed about how he felt like he was possessed when walking upstairs towards the 3rd floor. He described it as suddenly feeling the urge to kill. The crew then decides it's time for the lockdown and to conduct some tests. They use many different tools to capture evidence, like audio recorders to catch EVPs, EMF meters, and infrared night vision cameras. Zach would start to taunt the ghosts, and immediately they would hear voices coming from the recorder. The first reply was a voice that mentioned Nick's name, and laughing when he asked about its past. The guys would decide to separate, one guy on each floor. Nick would get the first floor, Zach would get the second, and Aaron would get the stairs leading to the third floor. Zach would claim to feel something around his leg as he was trying to recreate the experience the weatherman had told them about. Then, Zach drops his flashlight, and the banging sound can be heard from a room off to his left. Then, Nick taunts the ghosts as well on the first floor, harassing them to try and get them to show up. Nothing would happen, but he did feel a scratch on his left hand. The night would come to a close, putting Ashmore Estates at the top of the paranormal food chain. As the season opener for season 5, a lot of solid paranormal evidence would be caught from the estate. Fortunately, Ghost Adventures ends without any clear conclusion. But from what we see in the episode, it's hard not to believe something is going on. As we normally like to do, we took to the internet to find some reviews and claims that people have made while visiting Ashmore Estates. Norma Arnold writes, quote,
"The history behind Ashmore Estates is intriguing. Once you hear it, it's easy to see why it's such a haunted location. After going through my audio, my first EVP was literally 5 seconds after I hit record. The owner and paranormal groups who frequent the location are all very nice and willing to answer any question you may have. My first time at Ashmore was a memorable one, and this is a location I definitely come back to."
Abondoned BC writes, quote,
I went to the Nick Groff tour that came through a handful of years back. We were in the basement and decided to walk up the stairs to the first floor. I was second to last, and the last person decided to snap one last picture of the stairway. She then lets out a yelp and showed the rest of us why. On the camera was a picture of a little girl in a nightgown-ish type dress with the white crochet around the neck. She had straight, dirty blonde hair, wet or greasy hair, and above all, her eyes were glowing like an animal in headlights. If not for that, I would have assumed it were a real person. Many things happened that night, especially in the basement with Johnny Hauser. But that was the biggest I thought of that night.
On May 29th, 2019, a review titled, "Day or Night She Will Talk to You," says, quote,
Have seen shadows, felt very cold spots when it was hot out, heard voices, even heard my name called. I've been knocked across the room on my butt, even had a board fly off the window and across the room. Getting knocked in my butt was my fault. I should have given the spirit its space. They do have feelings just like us. It's a great place. Just respect the spirits there. It's their home.
Beyond these reports, strange things have been encountered all throughout Ashmore Estates. From disembodied voices, potential EVPs, anomalous photographs, shadow figures, odd smells, and shifting furniture. Almost everyone who has come to visit Ashmore has left with some unexplainable story to share. The building has become famous in paranormal circles in recent years, particularly after appearances on Travel Channel's Ghost Adventures, Sci-Fi's Ghost Hunters, and has even appeared in movies like Children of the Grave 2. In many ways, Ashmore Estates has come to personify the next generation of famously haunted paranormal locations in the U.S. Being redeveloped to include cabins, bathrooms, showers, partial kitchens, presentation space, and wall and ceiling infrared lights to support night vision filming. Ashmore Estates now books tours and overnight months in advance, that it seems it only gets more in demand with each passing year. So, though it started life as a poor farm, Ashmore Estates has since gained a wealth of ghost stories and paranormal encounters.
And that is Ashmore Estates. I love the fact that they actually have this whole place wired from top to bottom with all the paranormal amenities you could think of.
I think that is so cool.
It's super cool because there's not any other place that I know about offhand anyways that you can walk in as an investigator and basically just bring all of your like necessities like cameras and stuff, but you don't have to wire the whole building down.
Right. You basically just plug in and go, and there's already things there to help assist with how your videos come out.
Yeah.
And
if you had some bad Taco Bell or you're really tired, they got that covered too. I mean, it's genius. It's really genius.
It is cool. And they have like almost housing areas for you to like hang out and chill. Like, I don't know.
Yeah, it's very cool.
Super, super cool.
And I want to comment on this ghost of Joe Bloxam, right?
Okay.
That's a bad mamma jamma. Okay, if he can knock you out like that as a ghost, what was he like as a living person?
Right?
He was a gangster. He was a gangster.
He was a G.
Now, I did read a conflicting story about Elva Skinner
Okay.
when I was doing this. And although the portion of the story that I wrote in there for you was that these were people that were proven to be alive, I don't necessarily think that she was, because I read another article that says that Elva Skinner was a character in a book series, and I think it was like 2013-ish, and then all of a sudden everybody started making claims of seeing her there. So
Interesting.
I honestly wrote the more interesting one, but
Right.
to be transparent with listeners, like it could go either way. I'm not real sure.
Right.
But there are people who have definitely died there, and it's been recorded. So
I mean, they had their own cemetery, so
now, there was another person who died there that would have also been kind of the Elva Skinner. It was a girl named Margaret,
okay.
another little girl. So I don't know which one it is.
Interesting.
I just left the one. So
Yeah.
now we are going to listen to some EVPs, and I hope to God that they are not like the one from last week, because that one gave me the freaking creeps, man.
That was. Nope.
I
didn't like it.
I got to editing that, and I took my headphones off. I never do that.
Wow.
I do not like that one.
Wow. No, that one was. Yeah, it was something.
I did not like that one. But the first one we have here is from Facebook, and it's from somebody called APRT, Anomalous Paranormal Group or whatever. And their description says, "Hi there. Long time no see, eh? Yeah, such is life. Unfortunately, but hey, we're still here. So I decided to whip out some old EVPs from the investigation at Ashmore Estates in Ashmore, Illinois on October 2016. They have not been heard by anyone outside of the APR team. Who is this guy? What is he saying? Take a listen and enjoy Gen D."
Interesting.
So shout out to them, and we are definitely going to listen to the CVP.
All right.
And you know the drill. I will ask you what you think it says at the end, because
Doesn't say.
I'm going to have to guess as well.
Okay.
So away we go. interesting. I have no idea.
Me either.
I don't even know what they were saying.
She said, "What is your name?" And then it was a whole bunch of crackles with like a whisper underneath.
I mean, there's definitely a voice.
Yeah,
There's
for
100%,
sure.
100% a voice, but
That was not great audio,
I have
like at all.
no idea what they are saying at all.
Well, it was an EVP though. That's all I could hear was like that.
Yeah, it was very hard. I mean, it was a good EVP though. I mean, it's definitely there's an EVP there.
Yeah,
All right.
for sure something there.
Not sure about that one, so let's go on to this one. This is from a YouTube channel called The Rocket Heads.
Ooh,
Sweet. Wonder if that's like Team Rocket, like callback.
or like rocket power.
Oh, that's what I meant. But Team Rocket would have been Pokemon, so whatever, that works as well.
Oh, well, yeah.
Booyah.
Either way.
Now this says, daughter and a dad paranormal, Jamie and Jerica Jenkins capture Class A EVP in daylight at a private investigation. Ashmore Estates, 5/31/15. Dave Lowry speaking. A woman says, "Why don't you be quiet?"
Ooh,
So this one could be interesting.
that was a lot of J names in there. Just
I know, I
saying.
had a hard time reading that. It was definitely a tongue twister. Here we go.
We're used to that.
One of our people here has learned how to turn cameras on and off.
Is that right? Well, maybe we'll catch them.
Yeah.
And when we went to the Myrtles, we had two set die before I even got out of the car.
Oh, wow.
I didn't even get to the building. Two different cameras.
Yeah.
But we live in
We
a...
decided that that's the best thing about paranormal investigators. You know, we bring lots of batteries.
We live in a house where we have stuff all the time, so we use most of our activities during the daytime in our house.
Yeah.
I mean, if they're in the night, they're there in the daytime too, you know.
Yeah, definitely. That's what we say about this place. You know, if you're the same person after death your whole life, this place is crazy.
That's right.
It was 250 acres and 25 buildings. They raised all their own food, everything else, but it was busy.
It was... did you hear it?
I did not. I didn't catch that.
And there wasn't anything on the screen for once to tell me what to listen to. It's kind of in the middle. When you hear it, I think it's like right after he's talking about the Myrtles.
Okay.
But you hear the one guy, you can tell the guy who's got the camera, he's the louder one.
Yeah.
But if you listen really close to about halfway through it, when the other guy is talking, it's a very faint whisper underneath. I wouldn't have been able to tell what she was saying, honestly, but I could definitely hear the voice.
I didn't. I missed that one.
Okay, I'm going to play it again, and I want to see if now that you're kind of...
Myrtles. Okay.
It's somewhere around there. I
right.
think that's what... I mean, it was either what they were talking about
And it's
after, I'm
while
not
he's
sure.
talking?
It's while he's talking.
Okay.
But you'll hear it. It sounds like a breathy whisper up underneath his voice.
Okay.
Here we go.
Yeah, we're used to that.
One of our people here has learned how to turn cameras on and off.
Is that right? Well, maybe we'll catch them.
Yeah.
And when we went to the Myrtles, we had two set die before I even got out of the car.
Oh, wow.
I didn't even get to the building. Two different cameras.
Yeah.
But we live in
We
a...
decided that that's the best thing about paranormal investigators. You know, we bring lots of batteries.
We live in a house where we have stuff all the time, so we use most of our activities during the daytime in our house.
Yeah.
I mean, if they're in the night, they're there in the daytime too, you know.
Yeah, definitely. That's what we say about this place. You know, if you're the same person after death your whole life, this place is crazy.
That's right.
It was 250 acres and 25 buildings. They raised all their own food, everything else. But it was
It's really hard to hear.
I still didn't hear it.
But, I mean, if you could, like maybe I'll try to amplify that and when I'm editing.
Okay.
But it's there. It, like I said, I wouldn't have been able to tell what
It was saying.
what it was saying.
Yeah, the words, like the actual words it said.
But I did get a chance, like I could hear it. Now, we're going to listen to another clip, and you're going to love this one.
Oh, God.
This one's going to be a little longer, though, but it'll be worth it, and you'll be okay with it, I promise.
Okay.
This is from the Travel Channel on Facebook, and it says, quote, "I literally have goosebumps right now. A terrifying encounter at Ashmore Estates sends Tanner running. And the investigation has only just begun. Trust us, you don't want to miss. This was apparently before the episode aired, but this is an encounter that the destination, you know what? No, that the Project Fear folks had. So let's check this out. I'm sure this is going to be a good one. It's always good with them.
Just got to the second floor. Mary, are you in here? Can you say something? Can you let me know that you're here? I don't know why, but I'm starting to get the chills. Literally have goosebumps right now. Can't even see them. What the hell? I don't feel good right now. Is someone getting close to me? I felt something. I think I just heard someone. It sounds like whistling. Hello? I just heard it again. Okay, I just...
No, sir.
No.
No, sir.
That was a lot of whistling, and I feel like there was like a almost like a hello in there.
Yeah, there was definitely a voice.
Like, I feel it was like,
That was...
I don't know, it was weird. Ooh. Yeah.
That was...
Definitely heard that one.
Yeah.
That was crazy amount of whistling. Like, we've heard like whistles on EVPs before, or like just on audio camera on lots of different shows and channels and things like that, but never, I don't think like that.
No.
Because usually it'll just be like a or something, you know,
no,
like
dude.
a little.
That was like a couple whispers, a voice, and I don't know if you noticed. You looked at me, but it was like leading up to that when he was walking up. It sounded like there was a voice.
Yes, it did. It was like a mumbled, muffled voice. I heard that. I have goosebumps.
I would probably lay down and die right there. All right, we're going to listen to one more. And this is also from YouTube. This is on a channel called Haunted STL. It says the audio and video was captured during an investigation of Ashmore Estates in Ashmore, Illinois by investigators with Haunted STL. Investigators Brian and Shannon were on the second floor in what is described to be the only private psychiatric room in the building. The room was said to be home to a set of twins. So this is the girls.
Okay.
While investigating this room, Brian and Shannon captured this audio on both their camera and voice recorder.
Ooh, multiple devices.
Yeah. Please note, there is the sound of a on the video that we have debunked as one of our investigators.
Okay.
Good job, guys.
Transparent. Love it.
Also, there is a lot of clunking noises as Brian changes position. The EVP comes after Shannon asks, "Are you alone in here?" Solid debunking, guys. I appreciate that. This makes me happier for this one.
100%. And I like how they kind of mapped it out, and we're like, okay, that like listen when it's here instead of the whole time you're just like straining to listen.
You're a true podcaster. I just totally dropped my phone on the table and you just kept going.
Yeah, I heard it. I know. They'll hear it too.
Of course
it's
they
fine.
Will. Yeah. That's how we do it. That's how we do it around here. But all right, let's check this one out. This will be the last one. There are more, so if you guys want to hear more stuff about Ashmore, just Google Ashmore Estates EVPs.
Or just watch lots of episodes of people going there because it's super awesome place.
Yeah, and there's a lot of them. A lot of people have been there.
Yes.
And I'm sure there's lots of like home videos of people going on. They do, from what I understand, they do like the group investigations.
Okay.
And they bring up to like 50 people at a time.
What?
I don't know if I'd want to do that.
That kind of reminds me of like our lighthouse experience.
Yeah, but there was like 10 of us. Not even.
In our group? Are you kidding me?
There wasn't that many of us in there.
Like 20 people.
I don't remember it like that.
I do.
I don't.
Dude, we were like covering 2 flights of stairs, like 2 levels of the stairs.
We could do that with
in
5
a line.
people. Whatever.
Yeah, no.
You have to take me back and prove me wrong.
Okay.
Here we go.
Do you need me to go get the nurse? Do you need me to go get the doctor? Are you alone in here? This button, okay, not getting ready. Are you alone in here? This button, okay, not getting ready. Are you alone in here?
Whoa.
Wow.
That's the best one.
That was really good. Did it say what it said on the screen?
Yes. What do you think it said?
It sounded like not with you.
That's exactly what it said.
Really?
Yes.
I got it.
That's exactly. I mean, that was clear.
Wow. Because she's like, are you alone in here? And it's like, not with you.
Dude.
Wow.
That was freaking crazy.
That was cool.
I was not expecting that. And I love the fact that it was super quiet in there.
Oh, yeah.
And
except for the clunking of the camera.
you know what,
really
though?
Annoying.
I got to give it to them because they pointed that out.
Yeah.
In their description, which even that, because you heard that noise and immediately looked at me, and they said in the description, yes,
or whatever,
yeah,
was
because it does.
yeah.
It sounds very EVP-ish.
It does.
So good on them. That was rad. That was super good.
I really like that one. That was good.
That was a good one. But we've done the history and the hauntings and the EVPs. Very cool.
Yes.
So there's only one thing left to do. Well, there's like two things left to do, but one more thing to do.
Is it real?
Well, Megan.
Yes.
What do you think about Ashmore Estates in Ashmore, Illinois? Illinois.
No, Illinois.
Okay.
My mom grew up in Illinois. It's not Illinois.
Okay.
She always yelled at me.
The Illinois out in Illinois. What do you think? What do you think about Ashmore Estates? Do you think it's haunted?
I definitely do think it's haunted. I think there is for sure something there. Who is it? I don't know. But I think there's a lot of grief and sorrow and I don't know how much death, obviously, because that wasn't ever like recorded or whatever. But
they say it's a lot.
I don't know. I feel like this place just has like a heavy sadness to it, like a very oppressed. I feel like it would have a very oppressed feeling. Just, I don't know. I have a very strong feeling that that's what this place is. Okay. And I definitely think it's haunted.
Okay.
I don't know. I want to go for sure. I really like this place.
Send me a postcard.
No. Won't need to.
Okay.
So now my roundabout way of saying yes. How about you?
I agree. I think it's haunted.
Okay.
There has been way too much evidence captured here.
Yes.
Over such a long period of time. If you think about it, 2006, they were like having ghost tours before it was like the big thing to have ghost tours.
Absolutely. And that's almost 20 years ago now.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
And I was in my mid-20s. Ugh.
I was like,
10.
I don't even want to say.
Yeah.
No.
And you were like, you were like 3, 4.
You're a liar. I mean, okay. You can say that.
Okay.
Sure. I was 3 or 4
I don't
in
know.
2000.
Makes you sound good, but makes me sound creepy. But yeah, I do. I think there's too much evidence here. There's too many. There's just been too much stuff caught, recorded on film and EVP. Like, there's too much.
Yeah.
I mean, we always say, well, I don't know how much, because we've never been there.
Right.
honestly, when we don't go there on a regular basis, but I do believe something is going on there. I don't know how true the stories of the certain people are,
Right.
Because nobody will ever know that unless the spirit literally comes out and says, "Yo, this is who I am."
This is me, and this is when I lived. Like,
But-
you won't get that, and that's why I said the same.
Yeah,
Like,
stuff is happening there.
yeah.
It's not even well, it could be. No, stuff is happening there.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, this one's definitely up there. So
Yay.
that means that it gets
The big old seal of approval.
And then, that's Ashmore Estates. I honestly, once I realized, when we were talking about what we were doing, and I realized the place that we were doing, I knew, I kind of already knew I was going to say it was haunted.
Yeah.
Because of the stuff I've
Just
seen.
from the stuff we've seen, yeah.
I mean, there's just too much. There's just too much there.
There is. There's a lot. And there's a lot for not just big TV shows and
That's everything.
things like that. There's a lot of YouTube people that have been there. It's crazy.
And the only reason that we did Ghost Adventures as the investigation is because that's kind of the one that made it start popping off for real.
Yeah. And plus, it was early on in the paranormal world.
Yeah.
Really.
Had it not been for that, I definitely would have picked somebody else. But, it is
it is what it is.
Whatever. All right. Well, where can they find us?
They can find us on Facebook at For the Booze and on Instagram at @ForTheBooze_podcast.
You can also find us on Twitter at For the Booze. And if you'd like to send in a story or you could also find us on YouTube.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That too.
For the Booze.
For the Booze.
You just look it up.
Yeah.
And if you'd like to send in a listener story or a suggestion, or I'm still accepting any kind of artwork you would like to submit for change in logo. And remember, if we pick yours, we will have you a custom For the Booze t-shirt made.
Absolutely.
You can send that over to forthebooze12@gmail.com. And please be so kind as to mosey on over to the Apple Podcast or the listening platform of your choice and proceed to give us 5 stars and a review, because really, that's how you can help the show. And by you helping the show, it makes it better, because the more we can do, the more we can do for you. Eventually, we would like to be able to, give stuff away, or maybe if we got big enough, I would take people out to locations with us and have them be guests on the show. And not just, I mean listeners. I don't mean I'm going to hit up Nick Groff and I'm going to hit up, I'm going to hit up Jason Hawes. No, I want listeners. I want people who want to be there. Who
true love of the paranormal.
Yeah, we want to bring you guys in with us. So remember, the only way we can make that happen is if you guys go on over and 5 stars and review. We ask every week. We're probably going to keep on asking every week. I know we are going to be taking probably a week off here pretty soon, but we'll let you know when that happens.
And I have speaking of
is it
Project Fear earlier.
Oh, I thought maybe you were going to say you're going to finally take that picture of that shirt and put it on the internet like you told everybody.
Well, yeah, I'm going to do that too.
Okay.
But speaking of Project Fear, we do have another For the News segment in the works.
Oh, yes, it'll be coming soon.
Building the story. Super excited about that.
Yeah, some more
Grabbing the gossip.
Some more stuff has definitely come out. It's getting crazy.
I'm excited. I'm so excited. And they're doing so good with their Kickstarter. They have...
I think it may be close to over by now.
It exceeded, I think, what they...
I think they've had to add tiers.
I think so too. I really do. I mean, it's...
The last time we looked,
excited.
They were just short of 400,000.
Wow. It's amazing.
So, I mean, we're going to get at least a few years from them just based off of the Kickstarter money.
Yeah.
And they keep claiming that they are going to be starting this soon. So, let's hope so.
Yeah.
And don't forget, you guys can also go over to the voyagetampa.com magazine and check out the article they did on us.
Yes.
That's
we actually
sweet.
just ordered our copy to
That's right.
have at home and maybe put in a little frame or something.
It's definitely going to get framed and go up in the studio when we move, because we are
so excited.
That's another thing. When we move, we are going to be creating a little studio somewhere. So I would expect some videos from us in the future.
And we won't be in the corner of our bedroom anymore.
Yeah. Yeah, we'll actually be able to, like, make it sound better.
Yes.
But
So excited.
I guess this is where we're going to end it this week. And, yeah, that's it.
Well, thank you, everybody, so much for listening and so much for joining us. And we will see you in the next one.
Bye.